And we're live. Welcome to another Savage Bloggers Network Hangout on Air. I'm Christian Serrano.
And I am Ron Blessing.
And joining us for this Hangout on Air are Ross Watson.
Hello.
And John Dunn.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here, guys.
Both of whom are of Melior Via, who are here to tell us about Accursed, World of Morden. Thank you both for joining us this evening. Really, really appreciate you guys reaching out to be on the show, and we're really happy to have you here.
Thanks for having us, guys. We really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Really excited to talk with both of you.
So, John, last time we had you on a Hangout, we were talking about Thin Blue Line and the Kickstarter campaign. That was a really fun conversation. If anybody who's watching this or listening to the podcast later, if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. It was great. Jason Marker was great. You were great. It was a pretty successful campaign, and the product came out wonderfully. So.
Thank you, Christian. That's really kind of you to say. We really enjoyed running the campaign, and it was a bit of a nail-biter, though.
Oh, yeah.
For a long time, we weren't sure if it was going to quite hit the goal we needed it to. But.
Christian and I felt like we were pulling it over the line, man. We were really hamming it up for people. I don't know if you heard some of the stuff we did, but...
I did, and I really very much appreciate it. Thank you.
I got to show this off. Because,
oh, yeah.
Oh, that map.
This is my...
That map.
Map, indeed.
My beautiful map here. Printed at the fine establishment known as Drive-Thru RPG. And sorry I went off mic there for a sec, but very cool. Comes in this neat paper folder that shows the map also. So
yeah, that was
very nice.
That was a really cool thing to get in the mail once I got it. It was pretty nice to look at.
Well, while I'm plugging Kickstarter things, here's a Gamer's Tavern Glass from that podcast that Ross is familiar with.
Indeed.
Nice.
Perfect for your apple juice, right, man?
That's right.
Yeah. There's it's apple juice and Sprite, which is why it's so fizzy.
Nice head on that cider there.
Right.
Indeed. All right. So
what happens when you mix apple juice into Sprite?
That's right.
Right out of the can. Yeah.
Don't try that at home, kids.
No, don't.
So speaking of Kickstarters, the reason why we have you guys here is to talk about the World of Morden Kickstarter for Accursed. John, why don't you give us a little bit of background information on that before we get started, and just kind of tell us what it's all about.
Sure. So we've had a lot of people come to us saying we want more information on the World of Morden, and we've been trying to figure out the best way to do that. And we've been looking at different ways of trying to approach the issue for practically 2 years now, going back to after we wrapped the first Accursed Kickstarter, because you got to make the numbers balance, but you got to be able to produce a high-quality product, and ultimately it looked like the best way to accomplish that goal was to go back to Kickstarter, because people have been asking for it, and we're pretty sure that, we were pretty confident that people would respond to another Kickstarter approach, and so the way we wanted to do that was by funding a series of books. We liked the way that Sand and Stone came out. Chris Avallone and George Seitz just knocked that out of the park in our mind. And so we were thinking we could do another series of books. And initially we were looking at doing 2, where we do Valkenholm Steppengrad and Man Rea and Karenkainen. But then we thought, we kind of want to be able to cover the Outlands and the Discordian Sea. And so that turned it into 3 books, and we thought to balance things out, it would make more sense to do Man Rea with the Discordian Sea and the Outlands with Karenkainen, just because those settings kind of complemented each other a little bit better than trying to go both edges.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we came to the Kickstarter.
Nice. So you've got a few stretch goals on that Kickstarter campaign as well, beyond just the main book, which was Frost and Fang. Tell us a little bit about the stretch goals that you got lined up in there.
Sure. So the first, like I said, we planned it as a 3-book project, and we wanted to make it modular, so that just hedging our bets, and that's why we're thrilled that Frost and Fang has already funded. Thank you very much to everyone that's backing us, and
first 24 hours.
Spread the word about that. Yeah, that was a very pleasant surprise. So thank you for that.
A little bit different than Thin Blue Line, right?
just a little. Yeah. Modular approach here seems to have benefited us tremendously.
Yeah.
But so Frost and Fang focuses on Valkenholm and Steppengrad, and then the next one is Science in the Sea, which is Man Rea and the Discordian Sea. Jason Marker is writing the Discordian Sea section, and he's already turned in a draft of that. Some slacker named John is doing Manrea, and that isn't quite finished yet, but it will be in the not too distant future.
Yeah, no, Manrea is super cool. It's basically Clockwork Italy with a lot of Return to Oz thrown in there. It's a really neat place to go. I mean, I'm a little jealous that John's working on it, frankly.
Fortunately, Ross is able to assuage some of that jealousy by the fact that he gets to do Karen Kynan for Bone and Barrow, which is his baby, because not only is it zombies and other undead, it's also Scottish zombies. So, hey.
Scottish Welsh, I basically like to think of it as a dark fantasy version of Prydain from the old the Book of Three, the Black Cauldron, and those books. Yeah.
The Chronicles of Prydain.
Yes.
Nice. Oh man. The believe it or not, Terran Wanderer.
Yes.
Was a one of the books that was required reading, or not required, but summer reading that we could choose when I was in grammar school.
Awesome.
And so I saw that it was like book 5 or whatever, and I was like, well, I've got a whole summer, so I read the whole series to get to that book, because even then I was that kind of OCD that I needed to know everything.
You have to collect them all.
Yeah.
It's like Pokemon.
About the assistant pig keeper. So
no, that was actually a reason why I never played with G.I. Joes, because there were too many, and I knew I would have to collect them all.
See, I did end up collecting them all because I got lucky. I would not play with He-Man because the figures were a different size than G.I. Joe. And I couldn't have 6-inch action figures playing with 3 3/4 inch.
That is totally fair, because G.I. Joe could play with Star Wars, right?
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah. Can I tell a quick G.I. Joe story?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm at Gen Con with my friend Michael Serbrook, and we're wandering the halls looking at people in costume and just sort of enjoying the whole con. And we end up behind this guy who's got this uniform on with a big orange vest and orange helmet and G.I. Joe markers on him, and he looks awesome. And I'm like, I don't remember this guy, but he definitely looks like he fits in with G.I. Joe. So we stopped him and we got a picture of him and everything, and he's just doing his pose, and he looks great. And I said, dude, which G.I. Joe are you? And he looks at us, he goes, Skidmark. And we're like, really? And he says, you don't get to choose your code name.
Nice.
And you know what?
Nice.
There is an actual G.I. Joe of that name. He drives a vehicle called the Desert Fox or whatever. But we were just like, dead silence. You could hear a pin drop in the hallway at Gen Con. Everybody around him was just like, whoa, absorbing the whole code name thing.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think that Snake Eyes could have taken Darth Maul out even faster than Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Obi-Wan.
Blasphemy.
What about Robot Legs, Darth Maul?
Oh, Robot Legs Darth Maul. That's rough.
So, wow. So you guys mentioned that a lot of fans wanted more depth out of Accursed, out of that setting, out of Morden. But what exactly inspired wanting to dive into this, and like what was the trigger for you guys that said, you know what, let's do this. Let's determining what level of depth you wanted to go into, and so on.
So Ross likes to say that I've got a decent business sense, and that kind of governs the depth to a strong extent, because I'm going to look at any project and say, where can we at least think we'll break even? And so I had to look at that and say, okay, what kind of page counts can we afford to do? And that's where we came out with, we can manage about 30 pages for each of these separate ebooks at the price point that we've set. And because I felt like that was a fair price point, that was a fair amount of depth. And so then it was a matter of building out from a business model to a content level, and making sure that the two complemented one another and were consistent, so that we were able to do the project and cover the stuff we wanted to cover, but to make sure that we were doing it in a financially responsible way.
Well, the thing was, when we created Accursed, it was such a compelling idea, right? We all just were like, this is it. This is the thing we're going to do.
Right.
And it fired up our imaginations like crazy. I mean, we were basically, John was helping rein us in from like, I want to do all of this stuff, and basically when we came up with the Accursed core book, that is what we fit into our original plan. But we had all of these great ideas. I mean, there were outlines and stuff lying around for the other portions of the world for a long time. One of the stretch goals we managed to hit on the original launch of Accursed was for a setting book called Sand and Stone, which, as we talked about earlier, was just really, really good. And so George and Chris, when they wrote that book, kind of set a standard. And John and Jason and I were all like, man, I'd really like to get back in there and write about this other part of the world. That was already something we'd been thinking about. And then we had this big groundswell of appreciation and support from our fans. And the most commonly asked question we always were asked was, when are we going to learn more about the world of Morden? So that's when this Kickstarter that we're doing right now, that's when that kind of came to life as an idea. We're like, let's do this. Let's find a way to make it happen, because we want to do it. We're so excited about this idea. Our fans are really excited about this idea. Let's make it happen, and we'll fill in where Sand and Stone sort of blazed a trail. We'll fill in the rest and get that world out there for the people that love it.
Well, I will say firstly that based on what I've read of Frost and Fang, which I went through the whole PDF.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you guys, I think you nailed it as far as what you were talking about, John, with price point and depth, and also what's covered, because it's not just background information. You also have the edges and things like that. That we'll get into that a little later on.
Sure.
But also, you are bringing about that richness that people have been wanting. At least I think you have, because when I compared the content to the Accursed core book, and the Accursed core book, each of the regions they go into, the history, and talk a little bit about the people and so on, and what's happened with them. But this goes into a level of depth that I think is going to be really good for people to grab onto, as for role playing and things like that. And again, we'll get into that. But yeah, all that to say, yeah, you guys definitely hit the mark on that.
I want to actually step back to part of John's original statement and applaud the fact that you are considering this from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
What I really like is that as a backer, by the way, while we were talking at the beginning, I went and backed it.
Yay! Thank you.
So I'm a backer. I just haven't been anywhere near like personal internet access in forever. But anyway, I went ahead and backed it, and I love the fact that you talk about budget and you talk about making sure it's a sound product, because there are so many pie in the sky Kickstarters out there,
right?
And I think it's a problem that needs to be addressed in our whole hobby, because the friendly local game store is a similar situation, right? There's so many people that are hobbyists but not business people start stores, and we just had a store here in my town that was somewhat popular closed down because the business wasn't meeting the hobby. And hearing a publisher actually, especially in a forum like Kickstarter, where really there's a lot of pie in the sky stuff happening, it's so nice to hear you talking about an actual publishable, we can do this at this goal, we need X money to make it this cool. It's such a breath of fresh air.
Thanks, Ron. That's kind of you to say.
Yeah, John is totally the Kickstarter guru, man. He is the guy I always run to when I'm like, I got a question. Can we make this work? Is there a way to make this profitable? And he usually like, well, no, but there's
right.
but there's another way we can approach this. He's like that guy, right?
So something you mentioned earlier, Ross, when you were talking about like the content and expanding on it, were these content ideas, for the different regions and whatnot, were they ideas that you had already had in mind or jotted notes down for when you were working on the core book, but was it a page count issue that you said no, we can't include that, or so kind of expanding on the cost page count issue?
Some of these regions definitely we had a lot of ideas and stuff for ahead of time. Basically, like for the Accursed core book, like Valkenholm is 4 pages. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
And I put a lot of material into those 4 pages, but I had like all of these ideas about the village of scars, and there was this one section that, there's actually like we had an appendix in one of our original drafts of all the things we had to cut for space. And so a lot of that stuff ended up trickling down. But also there was things that evolved over time during play, because when Accursed came out in 2013, we started running it at different conventions and running it for our home groups and things like that. So portions of the world also got developed during actual play by people who wanted to go to the Nachatore, which is this crazy clockwork tower in Manrea. And so I'm like, well, I have to decide what that's all about now, right? And so by the time we'd gotten to the point where we're going to do this Kickstarter for the world of Morden, we had the original ideas from the start, but we'd also developed and expanded and grown those organically through play. And people getting involved in building their own stories and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of both. There's that the act of creation, when you're writing it for the first time, and then there's the evolution of it over time. So it's a lot of that is wrapped up in this project. We're really happy and proud of what it turned out to be, because I got the chance to tell all the things I ever wanted to tell about Falconholm in Frost and Fang, which was awesome, because there was all these things.
It's like now you have that outlet,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then everybody else gets to enjoy it too. So.
Well, that's the plan.
Yeah, that's the idea. Excellent.
Yeah, when we went and created Accursed, there was kind of a breakdown between Ross and Jason and I about who got which parts of the world to play in. But we all had ideas. But then we, like Ross said, we all had stuff that. We have so many pages, and so yeah, a lot of it got cut. We have a outline Bible floating around file somewhere that includes, what each of our visions were for each of the different areas, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that Bible that still hasn't been touched on and may never be. But we had a lot of ideas, and we had a limited page count. As it was, Accursed ended up being, I think, about 8 pages longer than we originally planned for it to be, just because it boiled down to that took up a lot more space than I thought it would.
Right. As it happens, right? Yeah. Excellent. So, I guess let's since we're talking about the product already, let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into this. For those who haven't really explored the product yet, would you say this is a product for GMs, for players, or for both? Because I there are some edges in there. There's a lot of cultural stuff in there that I think a player could glom onto, but it also seems to have a lot of information that might be that GMs might use as a tool, right?
I would be comfortable saying it's actually more player-focused than GM-focused, though GMs are certainly going to benefit from it. But the big thing is we're diving into the cultures. And as we dive into the cultures and the personalities and the places, those are hooks for your player character. Those are background bits you can tie into. Those are personality quirks you can tie into. Certainly we're introducing new edges and new hindrances. Certainly we're introducing a vast number of hooks for adventures and stories, and we're including more Banes. And yeah, the players probably aren't going to use the Banes explicitly, and they're probably, but they might actually link into a story hook and say, hey, my character wants to go to this place, at which point, there's a collaboration there between the GM and the player in developing an adventure.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of richness in this in that regard. As a player, whenever there's a setting that has this level of detail, I love it, because it's something that I can bring to my character and to make my character more alive, and just glomming on those little pieces and making those as like aspects of their personalities. So I think this is exciting in that regard, for me at least.
I hope it's exciting for a lot of our fans too, because if we can continue to expand the world of Morden, we can actually get into some of these things that John was talking about, the ideas that we've had and have never really gotten a chance to get into. I mean, I was just glancing at the setting Bible just now, and I realized like we talked a little bit about what it actually lies beyond the Darkwall Mountains, which is basically the border of Morden. We talked about this is kind of a cool thing. I don't think we've ever said anything before, but we've talked about who is in charge of the Unseelie Fae. A guy called Iran, the Pale King, stuff like that. It's really, we have tons of new Banes and stuff we haven't even gotten into yet either. So yeah,
Nice.
And witch breeds that we haven't gotten into.
And witches that we haven't gotten into.
One of the things that we ran into was we wanted to make sure we left white space for GMs and players to have fun with.
Right.
Absolutely.
That was a limitation for us in some ways as well.
Right. Yeah, because it's easy to just
we're
run away
not
with
going
it,
to
right?
intrude on that too much with the new material. But,
Yeah. No, I
Well,
don't think you will.
These are all options anyway, right? I mean, that's the nature of.
That's true. And GMs are going to do.
No, actually, part of the Kickstarter money is for Ross's airfare. He's going to be banging down the doors of GMs who do not follow these rules.
That's right.
Okay.
We do have a level called Rent a Ross, where for a certain value, I will fly out and run a game for you.
That's right. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty
See, I'm lazy. I'll just wait till you're in and co-opt you
that's
for
fantastic.
a couple days, maybe with I don't know, a roommate or something, and
We'll GM for beer.
we'll GM for beer. I will run games for beer. That's something I'll do.
Nice.
But no, that's great. You know, it's funny because of all the times, Ross, that you and I were together at Genghis Khan,
Right.
I never got to play in a game that you ran.
That's right. I played in your game of Iron Dynasty, but I don't think you played in my game.
So I tried multiple times, and the one time I was totally ready, I was like 45 seconds late, and they gave my seat away
Oh.
because of the timing. But it just never came about. It never came about. And I was totally going to use my political muscle to force myself into a game where when Sean was out there, but then I moved. So what I'm saying is you have to GM a game.
Yeah, well, you know, I would love to. You can ask anybody. I run a pretty decent game, so we'll
That's
get into
why
it.
I wanted to get in. You're legendary, dude.
So Ron, what I think Ross is saying is that there's this Kickstarter they're doing.
Yeah.
No,
Fair
seriously,
enough.
I've got a lot of one shots that I've ran over the years for Accursed, and some of them, we have the one that became the Gen Con special game for our backers, which we ended up publishing called Fall of the Tower, which is a really cool one where it involves stealing airships and using gunpowder to destroy an entire castle and stuff like that. It's pretty badass. We've got I actually did some one shots that cross over between the Evil Beagle setting of Shintar and Accursed.
Oh right, yeah.
And John actually wrote one called Darkest Tides, which does the same thing. So yeah, there's a lot of cool adventures I would be happy to run for you that are set in Accursed or any of the other things I worked on. So we'll make it happen. That's a promise.
Good times. Good times.
That's a promise there, Ron.
But I heard so many good things about the games that you've run over the years, and it's just funny that we never got to do that. So. And you got to play in one of the worst games I ever ran, for the record.
I had a freaking ball in that game. That was
it's
awesome.
funny because I felt like it was the worst thing I did, and everybody afterward was like, "That was awesome. You need to do that more." I'm like, "What?" Okay.
That's what happens when you're a GM. It's a GM fate, man. It's just it's the GM's curse, right? You're
Right.
own worst critic.
Right.
Oh man.
And anyway, I'll stop derailing us for the moment, but
Yay.
This is all good. This makes for good radio, right?
Damn,
What a
John.
moment.
So let's talk about kind of like for me, I'd like to hear more about how the book is not laid out is the wrong word, but how the book is presented.
The organization.
The organization of the book. Thank you.
So, I mean, we're assuming we're able to fund everything and we're able to do the World of Morden book. It's going to be a chapter for each of the 6 nations, and then an additional one for the Outlands and one for the Discordian Sea. And the presentation in general, we start off with just a background of the setting of each nation, a general overview, and then dive into cultural characteristics, things like the history of the culture, how they diverged from the other groups, the other nations of Morden, and then any kind of special cultural traits, festivals, things like that.
Geographical landmarks.
Absolutely, how they define themselves. And then after that, we generally get into a major city. I think it's the capitals across all 6 of the nations, if memory serves.
Yes.
And then after that, the key political players within that major city, and then a look at the neighborhoods within the city, trying to dive into a fairly solid overview, not a photo's guide, but a decent enough look with enough hooks that that city will feel distinctive from other fantasy setting cities. And then after that, looking at some other parts of the nation, and then the banes that trouble different areas, trying to link them in with the areas specifically where we're talking about them.
Sometimes we talk about some of the smaller settlements as well in each of the regions. We talk about some of the organizations or clubs or guilds, for example. The Alchemist Guild is one that I talked a little bit about, for example. And the edges and hindrances, of course, which allow you to make a character directly from one of these places, which is one of my favorite parts.
And the edges and hindrances, I just want to jump in. That's something that we really want feedback from backers, how they feel about how those are constructed. I know there are a lot of people out there with very strong feelings about what makes or breaks a balanced edge or hindrance in Savage Worlds, and while we have our own opinions, we definitely want additional feedback on those.
Yeah, I really liked the one particular edge, fatalism, because when you first read that name, I'm thinking that sounds like a hindrance. And you're going through the details of it, which, by the way, the descriptions on these edges are super rich. I love the detail on it. It's, it adds a lot of role-playing element to it. But then finally you get to that last part, and you're like, wow, these guys are so just fatalistic that they can just ignore one level of a wound modifier. They're just like, you know what? F it. I got nothing to lose.
That's the motherland for you.
That reminds me of a Munchkin card from Munchkin Bites. It's one of my all-time favorite cards. It's the Armor of Ennui. Whereas your distaste for everything is so much that you get +1 armor.
Nice. Nice.
So that sounds like the Accursed equivalent.
Yeah.
Very cool.
There's some, but I do like how the edges really tie into this culture that you're just now reading about, and bring it into a mechanic that you can employ in gameplay. And one of the things I was a big fan of way back when we're in Forgotten Realms in 3rd edition, and I think they eventually did it for Greyhawk as well, was regional feats.
Oh yeah.
And this kind of reminds me of that, and it was a way to bring the culture and role-playing to a mechanic. So I think that's pretty cool. Really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. And and even on the culture aspect, like opening up in the first chapter, you're talking about like family and the church and things like that. Again, those are things that you can bring to your role playing experience. I think really good stuff in here.
Well, I think that's the strength of the setting is really, again, in that compelling idea, and it kind of transitioned into our writing where we started getting into this really immersive aspect of each of the cultures, where we were like, well, how do they feel about the church? How do they feel about the Accursed? How do they feel that their land's been conquered? And it really, I think, it's due to the strength of the setting's overall themes and tropes that bring it down to that feeling like, okay, I know what these people are really like at the end of the day. Yeah. And I credit Rich Baker as one of my inspirations when he did this setting back in the 90s for 2nd edition D&D called Birthright, which had a very strong semi-historical approach, and I learned a lot of the techniques and things that I used on Accursed from that.
Nice, very nice. And the sidebars that you even have are just nice little extra bits as well.
We love the sidebars.
Oh, those are great. Tsar Nikolai. When I was reading Tsar Nikolai, I'm like, oh man, I actually feel sorry for the guy. Yeah, they're fantastic. So let's talk about some of the creatures you've got. You've got creatures that are specific to some of these regions. Mostly, it seems to me that they were created by Baba Yaga, for example, and so on for specific purposes. I have to say my favorite is the Blood Maiden.
Thank you.
I'm not going to spoil it. I'll let anybody who's going to back it read it. It is super creepy and super cool. But yeah, it's can you tell us about some of the creatures and how they came to be?
Well, one of our goals when we created Accursed is we said, we want our monsters to really evoke a certain feeling in people when they read it. They should have this sort of shiver go up their spine and go, man, I would never want to see that thing in real life.
Right.
We call it the ew factor, right? And yeah, like for example, one of the first Banes that came up was actually from the Blood Witch, who rules Valkenholm, and it was the Leech Man. And I loved the idea of this, utterly boneless, slimy, black thing with a huge maw full of teeth that's going to suck your blood out. And just the idea of some 6-foot tall creature looking like that makes a lot of people just go, oh my God, I don't want to ever see that in real life, right? And that sort of response is what guides a lot of our decisions on making monsters. We want to make some really memorable, icky monsters that you're just like, I have got to get rid of this thing. I don't even want to be around it. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's even fun for a GM to be able to present that, and you present that encounter, that experience to the players, and watch their reactions to it. That's yeah.
Now that being said, like each witch has their own flavor that trickles down to their monsters as well. You talked about Baba Yaga. A lot of her monsters are so tied in deeply with the cultural myths and themes of Steppengrad that they feel more like they feel like a mythos. They feel like they're all connected to a larger cultural storytelling, oral tradition kind of a thing, right?
Right.
And all of the Blood Witch's creatures have some kind of connection to blood.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of the Chimera's creatures are some kind of weird Frankenstein, this head sewed on somebody else's body thing.
Right.
So there's a flavor that also comes down directly from the witch that created the monster. So you can kind of tell. We've organized them in groups. They're called witch breeds. So you can kind of tell, like, that's a creature of this witch, and that means certain things. It means like it's vulnerable to a particular attack. Like if it's a creature of Baba Yaga, silver is going to be more effective. If it's a creature of the Blood Witch, wood is going to be more effective against it. And again, I think having that consistency really ties it into the world and makes it feel more alive and more, for lack of a better word, it helps you feel more real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Verisimilitude. That's what I'm looking for. Verisimilitude.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, because then when you think about, like, if I were living in this region, I'm fighting against these forces. There are certain things that like you said, certain weaknesses I might identify, for example. And there's a theme there now, so I can as a role player I can focus on that, and or even as a GM I can focus the party on that if I chose to. And by the way, Blood Runner was another favorite edge of mine too. I thought that was
thanks.
pretty cool. Yeah. Is that yours too?
Yeah. I wrote all of the Valkenholm stuff.
Okay.
Jason Marker did all of the Steppengrad stuff, and he's going to be so happy to hear how much you liked the things that he wrote. So
nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was definitely cool. So, John, what about you? Are there any particular favorite aspects of of the products?
So one of the things Ross was talking about, tying things in, and he mentioned specifically how Baba Yaga is so linked to the land. One of the things I really like in the process of creating the Banes is the fact that whenever possible, we tried to go back to mythological origins. So the Banes that you're seeing out of Steppengrad are all linked into Eastern European or Russian legends and myths. And we didn't just, dust off the mythology text and go, oh, that's exactly how it is. No, we, took it and looked at it and said, all right, how can we twist this? How can we tweak this? How can we make this even more horrific without
turn it up to 11, so to speak?
Yeah, but without, crossing, let's say, the boundaries of good taste.
Oh, sure, right. Yeah.
And I think we achieved that in a lot of places. I think some of the artwork is going to reflect that as well. If you look at the Kickstarter page, we've got a really cool-looking monster about 2/3 of the way down. It's got like a Cyclops wolf head and these nasty things coming off of its claws, or nasty claws coming off of its hooves, actually. That's a interpretation of a Russian mythology guy. That's the Soglov, I believe, is how it's pronounced, from Frost and Fang. Higher up the page, we've got one of Ross's creations, also in the artwork there.
The Chiropteran.
Yes.
It's a man bat.
The Chiropteran was Camille Jadzik. The Soglov, I believe, is Maro Peroni, who this is the first assignment he's worked on for us. But I really like the way that both of those turned out as just, a great vision of a really twisted thing out there. I've got a couple other sketches, but I don't know if there's a good way for me to show them here, of some stuff that's upcoming for Science in the Sea also. One of the monsters that we had previously mentioned as a bane of the Chimera is the Stench Goblin, and that's one of the ones that will be going into the Manrea section there, and I'm looking forward to showing that off. It's got the head of a lynx, the body of a monkey, and the tail of a skunk.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, the one-eyed wolfman thing. That was, I remember when I was reading that, I was like, oh, it's like a null. And I'm like, wait, one eye in the forehead? Wait a minute, what? What long, claws and hooks coming out of its hands? And then I saw the illustration. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So yeah, that was a really cool creature.
Yeah, so this is basically what we're talking about. These world books, they provide you with edges and hindrances and bad guys to fight and lots of adventure hooks and places to go and people to see. So they really are pretty much for everybody. John says they're really good for players, and I definitely agree on that. But they're also good just, if you're a fan of the setting or if you're GM looking for more stuff to do, that's going to be a very handy thing for you too.
So one of the things about coming up with unique creatures is you need to be able to visualize them.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these creatures are going to have art? Or is it going to depend?
All of them. No.
Initially, it's probably only going to be about one creature one bane per nation that will have artwork. If we can hit certain stretch goals, it might be more, but that's a little ways off.
Yeah. It depends on how we do with this Kickstarter, but our initial ally was to do at least one per region.
Cool.
Right.
Cool.
Well, artwork is certainly one of the more expensive aspects of producing a product for RPGs. So.
Well,
I don't see this Kickstarter not blowing up.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But one of the things that we're really proud of too is that Accursed has a very distinctive look. It has a very distinctive style, and there's a certain level of quality there when it comes to artwork. So we're not just going out and grabbing some dude off DeviantArt, right? We have certain artists that we've got a great relationship with that turn in some fantastic stuff. And so it's we work with the right people to make the right pieces. If you look at some of the covers that we've got up on the website, for example, you'll see just kind of how badass our guys are. And so when we talk about art, it's really a question of quality over quantity. We go for the really good, really strong, evocative pieces of art, rather than just kind of shovel a whole bunch of black and whites in there and let you, oh, this is sort of what it looks like. That's not going to happen in an Accursed product. Mm-hmm. You'll never see that.
I have an idea for a product, but I'm going to talk to you about it offline.
Oh, okay.
I just have this.
A lot of cheap black and white art into a book.
No. It's a really cool idea that I should probably not share in front of the entire audience.
Have you guys heard about Brand X? It's got black and white artwork in it.
Oh my God!
Nice. So I was looking at the different.
Accursed is people. Wait.
Well, actually,
it's a cookbook.
It is actually, depending on what monster you're playing, right?
Fair enough.
So the pledge levels are pretty cool in the Kickstarter here. So for $25, well, let me start at the very top. So for $10, you can get the immediate access to the working draft, of course, and of course a PDF of Frost and Fang. $25, you've got the print Witchmark, which is a softcover print compilation of the World of Morden books, and the printed version includes the content from Sand and Stone.
Right.
Really cool. And then at $60, you've got this is the complete Accursed ebook collection. Is that correct? Including the GM screen and the double poker deck.
Our novellas are not included, so it's all the games.
All the gaming related, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. And then at $250, you've got the. Now, what I did notice is at the $60 level, you're not getting a print copy, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Okay. And then at $250, you're getting the that's the print Witchmark plus a piece of artwork dedicated to a character or bane you create. and cooperation with the creative team. That's pretty cool.
I'm excited about that one.
Yeah. Do you have a particular artist working on that one in mind yet, or?
We have artists we want to use, but until we have the money, we can't commit to contract.
It's gonna depend on how we do on the Kickstarter, but we have guys lined up ready to go. It's just a question of because we got 6 of them out there and one's already bought, so there's 5 left. If you want one, go and get one now because there's only 5 left.
Right.
And we got 19 days left to go in this thing. So yeah, go get them now. But yeah, it's going to depend on how well we do here. We'd love to get a lot of illustrations done for people's stuff. I'd love to see tons more NPCs and critters and characters and stuff like that.
Without naming artists, it's safe to say that the artists that we are already using would be likely to be the ones doing this. We're not going to just, troll DeviantArt and find somebody that can do really impressive stick figures.
Right.
I don't want to slam DeviantArt. I love DeviantArt. It's a fantastic site.
It is a fantastic
very
site.
Clear.
I use it, no question about it, and I refer people to it. But yeah, there's
a certain level of quality you're looking for.
Artistic skill.
Yeah. It's not like you're doing Order of the Stick type, illustrations here.
Hey, you know what? If
we could get Rich to do one, I'm betting we could charge 50.
Yeah, you're damn right. If we could get Rich Burley, my God, that would be amazing.
Oh man. Oh,
by the way, if I win the Powerball tonight, I'm totally going to rent a Ross. Yeah. Wanted to throw that out there.
So that takes us to the last one. There's and this is a limit 3 of 3, and it's $2,000. You can rent a Ross. Ross will travel to you to run a weekend of Accursed. That means no sleep, Ross. That's a whole weekend.
No, you got me for the whole weekend. 48 hours.
That's right. And does that include Friday night?
Sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And, airfare and hotel are included, and that's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Basically, all you got to provide is a place to play and some people to show up at the table. I'll bring everything else.
Nice.
Cool. Pizzas on Ross.
One thing at the $10 pledge level. Our stretch goals, at least the first 2 will be included in that. So people who get Frost and Fang, should they be fun, will also get Science in the Sea and Bone and Barrow.
Right.
Wow, that makes that pledge level a pretty amazing value.
Yeah, you just convinced me to drop my pledge to $10.
Well, those books will go into the $25 level too.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But no, I'm kidding. So I will say the only thing that I was a little curious about, I was trying to find a way to get the print version of this, but also the complete ebook, because I don't have a lot of the supplements yet in PDF format.
So
don't you just buy them in add-ons?
I didn't see them.
Yeah, add-ons.
A veteran of Kickstarter. If you look past stretch goals and past pledge level, under add-ons, the print add-on option, Accursed World of Morden standard softcover at $25 is the 3rd print add-on.
I feel stupid now. That's great. Ron, why don't you take over hosting? Because obviously,
I'm just enjoying the train wreck. I mean, the show. This has been great.
No.
Can I give a quick shout out, really quick, guys?
Train wrecks are fun to watch. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Thanks, I really appreciate it. See, the thing is, I gotta just do a quick shout out to all of the fans and backers of Accursed, because we could not do any of this without the support of the people who love to play in this world. John tells me it's one of the highest selling settings for Savage Worlds that you can find on DriveThruRPG, and that is just amazing. And the creators, John, myself, and Jason, we're all just humbled by the amount of support and excitement that people have for the setting. And if if this keeps going, we will be happy to do more Accursed books. We will be happy to extend this line out and write like all kinds of crazy stuff for you and your game. So we really appreciate it. On behalf of John and Jason and myself, I want to give a deep gratitude and thank you to all of the backers.
Hear, hear, Ross. Hear, hear.
Yes. Well, you're welcome. No, that is it is really, first of all, I feel like Accursed really hits presses a lot of buttons for me as far as just themes that it touches on. One, I like fantasy settings. It's always been my preference. I love the idea of playing a monster. I love the idea of this concept of like redemption as a theme and things like that. And it's got I feel like there's still a connection to real world in terms of the cultures and whatnot that I can sort of glom onto and then extrapolate from there to then bring to my role playing experience, which I think is great. You guys did a great job on this product. So
what I love about Accursed is that to me it feels like exactly what Savage Worlds is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Fast, fun, and furious.
Well, not just that, but I mean, like, it's all about, if you look at all the stuff that's come out for it over the years, it's all about taking a concept and turning it just slightly on its ear.
Yeah.
That's true for the settings. It's also true for the way you actually manipulate the rules if you're doing it right.
Right.
And so
that's
really,
what setting rules are, right? Yeah.
Right, totally. And so Accursed is I mean, it belongs. I can imagine it under other rule sets, but those people would be doing it wrong.
Let's be honest, Ron. You would say that about any Savage World setting.
That's not true. That's not true. There are Savage World settings I would put into other systems. Mostly ones I don't like, but that's another story.
Well, when we first came up with Accursed and we sat down to talk about how we wanted to do it, the very first thing we all basically agreed on was that Savage Worlds was the perfect fit for the idea. That's not to say that it can't or won't fit other settings or other systems, but that's really the first place we went with it, absolutely.
I actually will say that I think it would be interesting for 13th Age because of the icons concept.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
But that if I was going to pick another system for it, I would probably pick 13th Age. But really, it does run on all cylinders for Savage Worlds. It just totally makes sense as a product. On top of being well crafted in all aspects and being gorgeous and all that stuff. So
what I really like is that it gives my horror companion a single purpose. Gives it focus,
Nice.
But no, it's true because it's like when I first got the horror companion, what I really used it for initially was basically salvaging pieces out of it, right, and to use for my own conversions and homebrews and stuff like that. And then but it's like, oh, here's a whole setting that uses it, right, and it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, the horror companion is a great book, and seeing stuff that uses it. It's also why I like ETU.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, there's another one right there, Thin Blue Line.
Yeah.
I mean,
nice.
Yeah, another use for your horror companion right here.
That's true.
Such a great book.
I know, it is. It really is. God, I have too many books. You guys are putting out too much stuff.
Well.
And then my friends are all like, "Hey, can you run a zombie game?" I'm like, "Yeah, fine."
I have to put it out there, man. I mean, if I win the Powerball, everybody should vote for me to win the Powerball. Somehow. We should all do a ritual because then I'm going to run all the stuff I want to run. It'll be 7 days of gaming for Ron.
We'll do some cooperative rolls and
everybody
save your bennies.
There you go.
I think there's some ritual.
Run any more Kickstarters if I hit it, but hey.
Right. There you go. There's some ritual rules in the horror companion we might be able to use.
So since we are talking about some other products here, this would be a good segue to kind of open the discussion. Well, first of all, before we get there, are you thinking yet about? You kind of briefly hinted at future products for Accursed. Is there more stuff that you're looking to do? I mean, you don't have to say what it is, but do you have those ideas like waiting, like, okay, let's see where this goes, and then we'll do that next thing?
When we did the initial Accursed Kickstarter, we plotted out stretch goals to $150,000.
We were really, really, really ambitious.
So
no,
it's safe to say that yes, we have more ideas that go far beyond anything that we've announced. Will we achieve them? well, Ross and I are both middle-aged. We got some time left.
As long as you can write faster than George R.R. Martin, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's it. You're good. You're good to go and stay healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a ton of books I would love to write for Accursed. So yeah, absolutely, we've got more stuff. More stuff in the pipeline. If the demand is there, we will meet it.
Nice.
That's right. If you buy it, vote with your wallet.
Right.
I tell people, no applause, just throw money.
Just throw money. Even if you don't want a product, just throw money at it. Yeah.
Right. Just let's just skip it. Let's just throw money.
Right.
Fry, his cash extended.
So a really cool product that you guys came out with was Savage Layers, and we talked about it on the SBN News.
So cool.
That is a really cool product. I could see something like that, or even using that specific product in Accursed as well.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Obviously, but I could even see those types of encounters, like sample encounters for specific for Accursed as a product idea as well.
Wait, did you say Savage Layers?
Yes.
I thought it was Savage Liars. John, I have to go edit my work.
Again. Yeah, so I would very much like to have Melior Via do more Savage Layers books, and that comes back to that whole responsible business thing that I talked about from the start.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Where I've got to make sure that I'm at least recouping the expenses that went out on that first book.
Mm-hmm.
PDF sales are fantastic. I love the lack of risk associated with them, but it takes a lot of them, and it's not a huge market. So I'm hoping that we'll know within a couple of months where the numbers are on that book, because I very much want to do a Savage Layers Fantasy Mountains, a Savage Layers Modern Backstreets, a Savage Layers Science Fiction Space Stations.
Mm-hmm.
I think those could all be fantastic products that would be very useful to the Savage Worlds GM in a variety of different settings. But I've got to make sure that I can afford to make them before I start the work on them.
Yeah, and actually, I just realized that there's probably listeners or viewers that might not know what Savage Layers is. Do you want to give a brief description of that?
Sure. So it's a 63-page book. I do not have at hand, which every page is a statted-out monster and an encounter to go with that monster. And the whole point of it is when your players go off your map and decide that tonight's game session is not going to be what you planned, you can grab the book, roll a die to pick a page number, and bam, you've got an encounter that at least fills the time while you try to figure out how to get the players back, maybe in the general direction of your plot.
Right.
Brownie golems, by the way, are in that book. That's one of my encounters for Savage Layers, is brownie golems.
Right.
Hold on a second. Now, is this a golem that's made of brownies?
Yeah, like the little pixie guys.
Oh man, I was hoping it would be a golem that
like actual baked goods.
I'm imagining. I was imagining that meme, with the little brownie with the fangs, the.
Everybody, drop your weapons and eat it. Just eat it.
By the way, I saw the coolest thing on the internet, and I love the internet for things like this. It was brownies made to look like the Necronomicon from Evil Dead.
Wow.
Awesome.
It was fantastic.
Oh.
Now, before I get too crazy, Savage Layers is a great book. I'm glad to have been a part of it. And honestly, I don't think anybody's ever brought up the idea of doing one for Accursed before Christian did, and that's a cool idea, by the way. I want to point that out. But yeah, Savage Layers, John's got a great handle on it, and if he does more, I just kind of hope he asks me to write for him because they were pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And disclaimer, it does not guarantee that your players will get back on track.
No, it does not.
But they're going to have a lot of fun being distracted by all the cool stuff in the book.
Exactly.
I mean, we got
that's all that matters. Yeah.
We got everything from like a swarm of wasps to a mischievous Nixie to, you name it. So it's all kind of fun stuff in there.
Yeah, and it's really the bookmarks and whatnot, the table of contents. It's really well organized in terms of browsing it, just for ideas as well. So kudos on that aspect as well.
Thank you.
So Ross, you've got something that you're working on as well.
Yeah, that's right. Coming up in February, we're going to do a Kickstarter for a thing called Aaron Alston's Strike Force. Now, Strike Force is a superhero setting RPG book, and it actually came out in 1988. I can show you guys what it looked like in 1988.
Wow.
And this was a really interesting book. It was the first time that anybody had actually said, here's how you run a superhero RPG campaign. It was the first time anybody said that different players want different things out of your game. They expect different things out of the experience. And this was actually a really revelatory book, because he would say, like, here's the top 10 ways to ruin your campaign. Here's all the things I did wrong and how I corrected them and stuff like that. So he was working on a new version of this when he died, and unfortunately, when he passed on in 2012. So friends of Aaron, like myself and Jason Walters and Mike Serbrook, we got together and decided to try and finish what he started. We're going to get this new version of Aaron Alston's Strike Force out, incorporating a lot of Aaron's work, but also incorporating some work for some great superhero RPG guys of the modern era, like Steve Kenson and Sean Patrick Fannin. And so it's going to be this awesome book that's going to tell you how to do a long-term campaign. It's going to show you Aaron's campaign setting that he worked on. You know, he evolved through actual play over 22 years, right? It's like a whole multiverse of different places for your superheroes to visit. It is super badass. And it's also going to be a tribute to a giant in our industry and actually in the Star Wars community, Aaron Alston. So a very creative guy. And I think anybody who's looking for a book that will kind of help them run a badass superhero RPG campaign that people will remember years from now, Strike Force is going to be that product for you.
Nice. Very nice.
And is that going to be a Kickstarter?
Yeah, we're launching. We're kicking that off early February.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that's soon. Yeah. That's
wow. Cool. Just when I thought I was going to be away from Kickstarter for a while, I get pulled back in.
And I actually just got an email from somebody, I don't want to say just yet, who's doing another Kickstarter that I'm just like, you got to be kidding. You're killing me. Like, it's, yeah. So
this is the new industry. This is the industry, you know, the gaming industry since 2013 has pretty much been this. This is how you get your idea out into the world.
And it works. It works. And I think it's, you know, just as Ron said earlier, voting with your wallet, right? You know, you get a good sense of whether people want it or not, and whether you're hitting the mark or not with the product concept.
It's immediate feedback, and there just hasn't been any other way to achieve that level of immediacy in business in general until this level.
But you got to do it smart. If you want to get it done right, you got to do it smart, and that's why John Dunn is such a valuable part of my circle of friends, because I can go to John and be like, dude, how do we make this happen?
Right. Does this make sense? You know,
yeah, exactly.
What are the risks? Exactly.
You got to do your research on this kind of stuff, or you'll end up with vaporware. Unfortunately, nobody wants that, right?
No.
Fortunately for me and John, we both have proven track records of getting Kickstarters out with all of the things fulfilled. So that's great. But we've got to build on that success and keep that level of satisfaction going if we want to be able to still be creators and still get great products out there into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So one other product I want to ask about, and it's associated with an existing product, the cast of cards for Accursed. Do you think there might be more of those, especially with the new creatures that are coming with these products?
I can definitively tell you yes.
Awesome.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Woohoo!
The cast of cards products from Warning Label, as soon as they got an inkling of us doing another Kickstarter, they wanted to know if they'd be able to use the creatures from it, and we said, absolutely, you'll be able to use the creatures from it.
That is awesome.
Yes, the material we're creating for World of Morden will come to cast of cards. I can't guarantee you it'll come to cast of cards immediately, but it will be coming to them.
If you talk to those guys, one thing I think would be cool if they sort of expanded their products a little bit is having a card that also has, if an illustration is available, having the illustration of the monster on it as well.
Oh, that would be cool.
You just hold it up and show it to your players and say, this is what it looks like.
Like a flashcard.
Yeah, exactly. So just throw that out there.
It would probably mean adding another card to the deck to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Which would affect costs
for
buyers, and I'm not part of their business plan, so I can't speak to that.
No,
but if they're listening, this is what the people want.
It'd be cool. Or maybe have, like options like for different decks, right? You can buy the one with it, you can buy the one without it, or buy it as a separate deck, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Something that's truly badass about Accursed, I don't know if you guys know this, but it's actually a worldwide phenomenon. There's some guys down in Brazil called Retropunk.
Yeah.
And they ran a Kickstarter specifically to translate all of the Accursed stuff into Portuguese.
Oh wow!
For their Brazilian RPG community down there, and it went like gangbusters. They got it done, and John, I mean, you can talk more about this, but it was really exciting for us to be going, wow, there's guys like halfway across the freaking globe playing our game and loving it.
It's
South
awesome
of the equator.
Because my Facebook feed is now about a third Portuguese. I don't speak or read Portuguese, so I'm constantly going, okay, auto-translate. What is that? Oh, that's good. Thanks. Where did you get that?
Yeah, I started following Savage Worlds Italia and what was the other one? The Polish Grammel does both.
Sure.
But there's another one, I think. Maybe
There's also, I believe it's Studio 101.
Yeah, Russian.
The Russian one. We do have an agreement with them.
Nice.
Still a work in progress.
Yeah, that'll feel a lot like home for them, wouldn't it?
Well, Steppengrad certainly will. They'll be like, oh, yes, I know this.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I know that guy. That's great. Yeah.
Or they'll be like, Steppengrad, wait, where are we writing this?
That's not what I'm afraid of. Yeah.
They're going to make it look like the United States.
Oh, no. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, Lady Liberty is their witch.
That's right.
That actually...
we are not making any political commentary on that, by the way. That's not to imply any sort of... Yeah. Oh, good times. Good times. All right. Well, we are at the end of the hour. So
guys, this has been so fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We didn't end up with any questions in the Q&A, so we're good there. Thank you so much for coming on this. This has been a blast. And
this has been a ball for me too. Thanks a lot for the chance to chat.
This has been great.
Absolutely. And it's great to meet you, Ross, as well for the first time. So it was a pleasure, very much so.
Thank you very much. It was great to be on the show with you guys and be back, on the air with Ron again.
Right.
This makes like time number 6, 7.
I don't even know anymore. I don't even know anymore, man.
You don't have to say that just to make him feel better, by the way. Don't feel obligated.
Hey, I've had a tough couple of weeks, man. Let him fill me up a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'll play nice. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all so much again, and we're looking forward to seeing where the Kickstarter goes and how far we get with it. And congratulations on funding within the first 24 hours. So
thank you guys. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Hey, by the way, if you're ever in a game with Ron, make sure you get a cool chase scene through Marketplace. That's all I'm saying.
Nice. Will do.
Good times.
John, I'm sorry I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and again, thank you to all the fans who were kind enough to support us in the Kickstarter. We couldn't be doing this without all of your help.
Absolutely.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And if you want to, for those of you who are watching and listening, you can visit our website at www.savagebloggers.net. We've got links to all sorts of stuff. We got the aggregated RSS SBN feed there. We've got our YouTube channel where you can watch this hangout if you'd like to and see all the funny faces on it. And of course, we have our podcasts and whatnot. And Ron should be putting out Simply Savage episode 4 sometime in the near future. And
it's so close to done, and it's all my fault.
Close.
I can't even go there.
I'm just giving you a hard time, man. I love you. But whatever you guys do until next time, keep it fast, furious, and fun.
Hey, is this where I get to put in a dumb joke?
Yes, it is.
Did you know that a steak pun is a rare medium done well?
Oh. Wow.
All right.
I hate you so much.
Damn.
All right. And with that, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.